Hey friends, welcome to a new video here on the L&M channel. Today we are doing what I think most of you guys, the video that you most enjoy out of my selection of videos, which is the August in my journals or August in the stationery realm video, or like the month in the stationery realm video. It started off as a monthly flip through, but as we've talked about in previous iterations of this type of video, I changed it from being just a monthly flip through to being an honest representation and exploration of what happened to me and what I happened to it. um, okay, what are words? The video is going to be split up into three sections. One is going to be acquisition. So what entered my system, my stationery systems, um, via products, whether that is fountain pen related, journal related, or stationery related. So we're looking at acquisitions first. And then we're going to talk about how I use my journals, what worked, what didn't work, what I actually got done in the month versus just looking at, the month as a whole. Whenever it's completed, we're looking at what I actually did in the month, right? So that's the difference. I want to always be very honest and forward with my journaling practice. It is not a perfect one. I very often am not up to date on things, and I want to make sure that that is represented here so that you do not feel alone in that kind of like feeling of I'm behind or I didn't get a lot done. We go through seasons of a lot of journaling, and those of us that like journaling, and seasons of not a lot of journaling, and both are okay. Journaling serve us, not the other way around. So that is what I want to bring to you in these videos. And lastly, I'm going to make this video kind of like three parts: acquisitions, how I use my journals, and then at the end, I'm going to talk a little bit about the fountain pen side of things, how it went with my pens, what colors I found that I used the most, and stuff like that. There will be timestamps down below, so feel free to move around based on whatever it is that you enjoy, because these videos are very chatty, as you can see just from this intro. Yeah, with all that preamble out of the way, let's go ahead and get into the top-down view so we can look at the acquisitions for the month. Okay, so we've reached the top-down view. I did put down my hair to show some semblance of put-togetherness because we are going to be doing this August in my journals, August in my stationery realm of existence in the weekly updates style. So this is the style that I do in my weekly updates every week over on my Patreon. Um, and because I felt a little bit put together today, that's what we're doing. So like we mentioned, we're going to start with acquisitions, and it's going to be two sections. So there's the journal acquisitions slash stationery acquisitions and the fountain pen and ink scenario. So first acquisition I want to talk about is the morning pages journal. So this is already kind of like used up, but I finished my morning pages journal that I had been using, I think since the end December-ish of 2024. I had taken a pause on morning pages and just recently started them back up, and I did finish that journal, so it was time to get a new one. So I decided, instead of using a Leuchtturm, which is what I had been using, I had used two Leuchtturm journals that I had kind of like in the back burner. I had purchased many years ago and hadn't finished, had sort of abandoned those journals. I decided to use those for morning pages. But this time around, I wanted to try out this. This is a Life Noble journal. It is in the A5 size. I have an A4 sketchbook of this one, which is in cream paper, blank. This is cream paper but grid. And the reason I wanted to try this one was, instead of going for a Leuchtturm, was because I wanted to see if this was a good option for next year. So I'm thinking, like many of us are, about 2026 and how to kind of like, if like how the system can evolve next year and change. And part of that was me considering whether I was going to go in a Hobonichi cousin again next year or not, for the kind of like Magpie slash commonplace journaling that I do. And in that, I'm experimenting with different journals. And so I decided to get this one to try it out and see how it went. You can see how the E went down. I didn't stick it there. There is a video where I kind of go through my morning pages practice and the setup of this. If you are interested in checking that out, I will leave that linked up above right here in the cards. Spoiler alert, I do not think I'm going to be using this next year. The paper is very slippery in a way that I'm not very fond of. I don't know how to explain it very well, but yeah, I'm not very fond of how slippery it is. I feel like my pens don't do very well on it. So even though I will be finishing it for my morning pages, I do not believe I'm going to be getting it for next year. And I do think I'm either going to go into a Moleskine or a Leuchtturm again once I finish this notebook, unless I find another notebook that I might want to experiment with for morning pages. Morning pages is something that I'm not very fussy about, like the journal itself. In fact, the cheaper the journal, the better it is. I will say I pre-ordered the Jibun Techo days for 2026, and that came because of when I pre-order it, that came with like 5 Kikuyo Campus notebooks, so I will probably use those next because otherwise I don't really have a purpose for them. So that's probably going to be my next morning pages journals. But for now, that's why I got this one. So that was one of the acquisitions related to journaling in August. Another thing that I ended up getting in August, which to me is very, very exciting, and we'll talk a bit more about that when we look at systems. Oh my goodness, look at the E. This E does not want to stick. Get on there. Goodness gracious. Okay, so there was a lot of index card related purchases in August. Look at how pretty it is, first of all. Let's just admire this gorgeous little box. I have posted a picture of it on Instagram recently, and I can't wait to add more stickers to it. It's just so cute. I can't wait to add more stickers to this one as well. So index cards. I in August came across this video. So if you don't know, Robbie over at the Sunshine Archives, they are amazing and great, and they have an index system for commonplacing and Zettelkasten and collecting quotes and all that jazz. And they also use index cards for memory keeping. And I think because I was watching their videos so much that I got recommended a index card video for planning with a system that intrigued me very much. And it ended up making me go into this spiral for functional system planning. And that's what this little thing is. And I'll talk about that once we get into how I use my journals for functional planning in that section of the video. But point is, I got the index cards, dividers, and all that jazz for that. And then this index box is because I had originally intended, because I'm in this like index card craze, to shift my ink cataloging system into index cards. Now, that was not as successful. In fact, I will be releasing a video at some point this month that kind of goes into me trying to do this system and it not being successful just because I can't really find index cards that work how I want to with fountain pen ink. I thought that I had found the one with this Clairefontaine ink index cards, but I tried, I think I threw it away. I tried it recently. I started yesterday actually to do that, and it didn't work. So I'm not going to be using that. So for now, this is just holding a bunch of storage cards. So these are all the different index card dividers and stuff that I've purchased, and the Clairefontaine index cards, which I will find a use for. And if not, they will make their way into my planning system, which is definitely going very well. But yeah, this month was definitely a month of buying a whole bunch of index card related things. And I'm not regretting it. Not definitely not the planning side because that's going very well. But like the thing for the index cards, I'm not regretting it just because I think I will be able to find a use for this anyways. And I don't know, I just really like the box. Who knows? Maybe I'll start making quote index cards like Robbie does. Um, I don't think so, but never say never. Never say never. And then the last acquisition on the journal side of things is one that is very exciting to me, which if you watched my little 2-minute video clip that I posted on YouTube a couple weeks ago, whenever I posted that for Hobonichi, the Hobonichi release, you would have seen it. But it is a Filofax Ranger. I have been wanting one of these, like many people who are in this kind of like side of the hobby, for a long time. And every single time a Ranger shows up on eBay, it is just so much more than I'm willing to spend. And I came across this one at a point in time where I was not using my rings, mind you. And I was gonna let it go and be like, I'm not using rings. I don't need it, Ranger. But I remembered that there was a point in time where I was once again not using rings, and I came across a Ranger that I could have purchased because it was within what I would pay for it, and I let it go. And I regretted that heavily once I got back into rings and wish I had purchased it. So I was like, you know what? This may not happen again, and I don't want to regret it like I did last time. So I purchased it. And so now I have a Ranger and I love it so much. I've been using it actually in August. We'll talk about it in a second. But this was, I think, the biggest acquisition of the month was definitely this one. And I think it is everything I ever wanted. I love the pockets. I love, what's interesting is that I really love the mesh. You would think that something like that is so irrelevant that it shouldn't make or break a system, but guess what? Us journal lovers, the things that we use our systems in also makes a difference. Like this, it's part of the experience. If you don't like the case that you're in, the cover that you're in, or the system that you're in, you're not going to want to use it. And so I think that I absolutely love this thing and I am excited because I've been using it quite a lot. It came from Sweden, if I'm not mistaken, this particular one. And so this particular one came from Sweden. So there's a few, I think I might have taken it out, but there's a few pages in Swedish, I think, or Norwegian. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah. We'll look a little bit more into this later on, but that is the last kind of like major or the major journal acquisition in August. And I, again, don't regret it one bit. In terms of fountain pens and inks, so we've got one new fountain pen that we've acquired in the month of August. And if you see me kind of looking to the side, it's because I have my obsidian and my kind of like, I had to make a whatchamacallit, a table of not a table of contents, and it's not a script, but kind of like an agenda, if you will, of what I wanted to talk about because I felt like there was so much that I wanted to share with you and I didn't know where to start. So also look at all of this ink that I have on here. I'm gonna have to purchase a new one because that is unseemly. I apologize, guys. I live and breathe on this desk, so it gets inked up. Okay. So in terms of ink acquisitions, we got the bottle of Forever ink from Diamine, the Raven, which is the black. I had been using that quite a lot in my Sailor Pro Gear. So I knew that I wanted to get it because I was running out of ink in the sample. And when I went to get it, the only place that had Smoky Mauve available as a bottle or even as a sample was Atlas Stationers. And so I immediately got it because it's one of the only inks that I still hadn't tried, but I knew that I was going to love it. So I didn't even bother getting a sample. I just got this one. And then the other ink that I got, because I've been wanting it for a long time, is Jane Eyre by Wearing Wool. So these are the pen and ink acquisitions for the month. This I purchased from Laura over at Laura's Chronic Life, a good friend of mine, and she was selling her Lamy, and I had told her to let me know when she was, and she finally did, and so I got it from her. And so this is a Lamy Safari in an extra fine nib with the black nib, and I'm liking it very much. It's my first extra fine Lamy, so really liking it. And both Smoky Mauve, spoiler alert, Smoky Mauve and Jane Eyre are in my currently inked for September. So excited to use these. So that is my fountain pen acquisitions for the month. And that's pretty much it. I didn't purchase anything else, no stationery stickers or anything like that. I think I'm due for a sticker haul from Sticky Club. So that might happen in September. And what else might happen in September is me pre-ordering the Diamond Ink Vent for 2025. Let me know if you guys want to see me unbox those. I've been debating whether I want to do that or not, but I think I am going to purchase that. Okay, so now we're going to talk about how I used my journals this month. So let's start with the Hours Studio Journal. I did record a session yesterday. Today is the 30th as I'm recording this. The 31st of August as I'm recording this. And yesterday I did a session in here and in my weeks. And I believe that video would have released prior to this one. So if you would like to check it out, I will leave it linked in the cards as well. That is a final hurrah journaling session before the end of the month because I was very behind. I had basically just stuck in all of the images in here. Essentially, I wasn't in the Hour Studio Journal at all until yesterday because yeah, it's been a crazy month and I just didn't have the energy for it. I did print out all the images and just put them in here in like little blocks, and so the you'll see it in the video, the journal was like all like that from all of the images. But I did go ahead and stick them in, and it would be, let's see here. starting from this spread. So starting from the end of August, I hadn't really stuck in all the images, but I had them printed. So I just went in and stuck them all in here just so that they're ready for me to then journal about in upcoming session. I do think I want to get a good session in because it's been quite a while. I really like it. I was talking in that video, that Techo Time video, of how I think that I'm getting a little bit better at the placement of these pictures. So you can see here, I have to print out pretty much all of the images from August. I haven't printed. I think I might do that tomorrow. Who knows, really? But yeah, I haven't actually done any writing in here since technically week 20, but I decided that I wasn't going to do any writing in this spread. So technically, I have to work on week 22 to week 31 of things that I've already printed. And then I have 4 weeks worth of images that I need to print and stick. So I am behind on this journal, but I'm also not super pressed about it because I think that at the end of the day, this journal is primarily a visual journal. It's kind of like a photo book. So while I do want to go in and add some commentary in it, I'm not crazy stressed about not having written anything in because the pictures are the visual cues. So I'm not necessarily afraid of forgetting anything because what I want to remember is already stuck down on the pages, if you will. And then I also stuck in, I had printed an extra selfie from, what week was it? It was this week. And I didn't just want to put like the same picture twice. So I just ended up sticking it in here. And then I did stick in some images in the monthly. So I stuck in, this is a old image from a blog that I had on Tumblr. I used to do role playing on Tumblr, like characters. And I was looking for something and I came across this one again and I printed it out because I was very proud of this particular Tumblr page. And then Erin Ware recommended me to her fans. So on Patreon. So I wanted to print that out because that was a big moment for me. And then this is what the July page ended up looking like so far. I have some pictures of Izuku and Bakugo, the cover that I'm using for my Spotify playlist of the month, this image of Luffy, which is describing him as like, you kind of look like if all the light in the world had gotten together and arranged itself into the shape of the face. And if that's not Luffy, I don't know what is. My patrons for the month of July, which I completely forgot to write down the patrons at the beginning of August. So that is my bad. I need to go in and add that. And then some images from Stephanie using my printables that she posts on her Instagram stories. I always like capturing whenever one of you guys uses my printables, I like capturing that, adding it to my pages. So that's pretty much that part of the Our Studio journal. Aside from that, I did add some memes to the pages. Let's see. So I finished up this side of the meme page, and I think I've just added this SIM card meme, this like eye twitch, the insurmountable grief of existence, and then a little craft. If that's not us, every single one of us, I don't know what is. And then let's see. And then I did create one more. That's a spoiler to the currently inked. Which I guess I'm going to show you because it's something I did in August. So just bear with me. And then all of these new ones. So we've got La Grugu. La Grugu, which is something that I don't know if I posted it or someone shared it on the Discord, but we were laughing for ages. Every single day there is something to do and I'm sick of it. Sometimes when I talk, I can physically feel myself pick the wrong dialogue option. When someone tries to get to know me, but I stay at home all day, have like 3 close friends, and just exist, really, the only thing that can defeat me is a minor obligation later in the day. And if that's not the truth, I don't know what is. Um, the urge to delete all social media, the urge to only post these stuff, the urge to just uh, post. Born to sleep 8 hours, forced to have a concerning sleep schedule because I need more me time. My sister sent me this and I had to add it. I do, in fact, have that summertime sadness, and they said, you with your heat intolerant summer depression episodes. So real. Every day I wake up and it's too hot. This Barbie image is everything to me. Um, Shout out to everyone who wants to info dump but can't string together coherent thoughts to form sentences and instead just look at you like this when you're dead inside, but your best friend needs emotional support. Tears, 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 tears. The medieval urge to be entertained while eating. Nothing getting done because I'm too overwhelmed, being overwhelmed because I haven't gotten anything done. What do you do for a living? I do my best. Memes are everything to me. I love them so much. And then this is my currently inked for next month. Don't look at this like atrocious little muddy color ink play. I made peace with this and explain it in the video, but we're gonna ignore that. It is my least successful ink play, and that's okay. But look at these colors, guys. What do you think? I like them. I'm really excited. Here's to hoping they all do what I want them to do. I'm so intrigued by this color. Like the way it goes down, such a bright red, not a bright red, but like definitely a red, and it just dries brown, just does not, it doesn't beat the allegations of me comparing this color to a situation that happens monthly to some of us. If you know, you know. And yeah, I really like it. And then of course, we got to share the Luffy page. He's so precious to me. I think that I only have maybe like space for one or two more images on this spread, and then we have to move into a new Luffy spread. So look at that. Look at him. Oh, how can you see this and not like just smile when he look at his smile? He's precious. So that's the Hour Studio Journal and how I used it or didn't use it in the month. Barely used it, only used it, pretty much just went into it the last day of the month, and that is valid. That's valid. Next up is the Hobonichi Weeks, which I use as a media journal. I have not caught up on the monthlies, so I still need to add that. So I need to do a mass session of July and August. So that's absolutely fine. Actually, that works better for me, kind of doing it in 2 month sprints because I can make a lot of use of one image, not one image, one page. Um, Having 2 months worth of images works really well for that. So I'm very happy about that. And then in terms of the weeklies, for the most part, I also just like updated it yesterday, and that'll show up in that video that I'm talking about with the Techo time. Let's see here. Because I've been keeping track on the daily in my Obsidian, and then I just come in and transcribe that in whenever I get a chance to. So I have to actually go in. Let's see here. I have to actually go in and add my color coding. So these are the pages. And I kept it pretty simple this time around. I've just been keeping the reactions on the side. And if I didn't have any reactions, like it is in this case, I just went ahead and added these stickers in. These are my printables. And then these are two, I can't remember the name of the artist. I know a lot of you know who it is, though. I just can't remember the name right now. I'm sorry. But yeah, so this page is so pretty. This is a sticker by Hello Naya. This is a Patreon printable from The Great Jupiter, which on here is it's Nina from Ray Arts, and this is by Aaron Ware. And then I cannot remember again the name of this artist. But in terms of media, just to kind of skim through as well and kind of talk about what I've been consuming, I will talk about that a little bit more in another video. The goal is these videos, there's going to be a couple of different wrap up style videos. One of them is going to be kind of like stationery and journal related, which is what you're watching right now. The other one is going to be my Obsidian, kind of like system changes in Obsidian for the month. The idea is that I will make eventually a kind of like media related wrap up. But that's still in the works. We're still working on that one. Maybe once I am able to leave my second job, I will have the time to do that. But I do really want to. I really want to talk a bit more about media and stuff like that. So here's to hoping that I'll be able to do that at some point. Um, Once I'm able to kind of make a living off of this, there's so much more content that I'll be able to provide you guys. But yeah, watching a lot of Desperate Housewives. I don't think I watched any One Piece this month, which is normal. I think that for me, whenever I finish an arc and start a new one, I do take maybe like a month or 2 month break just because I've already gotten to the point where I am getting to there being less episodes out than there have been that I've watched, and I'm sort of dreading catching up. So I do tend to give myself to kind of pace myself a little bit. So I haven't watched One Piece this month at all. I started reading this book called The Face of Another, which is a random book that I found. And it has to do with mask and facial disfiguration. And I think I talked about this either on a weekly update or in one of the Obsidian videos. I'm not sure. But I've realized this year that I have one of the synchronicity points is masks. And so when I found out that this book that I had gotten and didn't really know what it was about related to masks, I was so happy. I haven't finished that. I don't finish books. Apparently, I don't finish books. I just start them, and then I have a bunch of books that I've started but haven't finished. And you know what? That's valid. Everything is valid. Everything is valid. Don't judge me. Okay. I'm a mood reader to the point of it being a problem. But at the end of the day, who says you have to finish a book to gain something from it? You can gain from it like just reading part of it. I don't read a lot of like, I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but the point is, yeah. I started reading the creative journaling writing book, which is the one I talked about in that Morning Pages video, which is the book that I'm giving as a giveaway. That has been really, really nice. Um, Kind of like slowly going through this book called Wanderlust, which is a book I found also in the library that talks about the history of the walking practice. Has been really, really interesting as well. And I read like the intro of the Diary of Lady Murasaki. Been very into historical Japanese literature lately and kind of like a history of Japan. You'll see, I think at one point I start reading, yeah, I kept reading the concise history of Japan. I'm kind of going through and I'm very into kind of like the Heian and the Heian. The problem with like reading a lot of things and not really having any discourse about it is that you don't know how things are pronounced. So I'm gonna have to look up a video on how to pronounce that. But I've been very into like learning the history of Japan and a lot of those cultures, primarily because since I've been into masks and no masks specifically, I kind of want to have some cultural context about that before I write anything on it and kind of like tag it to other things that I'm interested in. I started Agua Viva because of Robbie, again, like I mentioned earlier from the Sunshine Archives, but I decided after reading the intro that I was going to pause on that and finish reading Near to the Wild Heart just because Near to the Wild Heart was published prior to Agua Viva. So I want to read them in order a little bit. So I'm going to finish Near to the Wild Heart first at some point, and then I will return to Agua Viva. I actually have finished 2 books this month. So, you know what? I take back what I said about not finishing books. I do start more books than I finish though. That is still true. Still me. So I started reading and I finished reading this book, which is a haiku anthology. And then later on, I started a book also on haiku. Where is it? The Heart of Haiku, which is also somewhat of an anthology, but it's more related to Basho, which is a Japanese poet as well from the 1600s who really revitalized and changed the game when it came to haiku, the history of haiku in Japan. And so, 2 haiku books. If you've been here a while, you'll know that I used to have a daily haiku practice. It's one that I haven't kept up with this year, but it's one that I really would like to return to because I enjoy it very much. So, very felt very called to reading some things about that. I started reading this book called Feminist Geographies, which relates to how the study of geography and geography itself is different when it is led by women versus men, and how feminist geography as a study, um what the historical significance is and how it has changed geography in and of itself. And so I started reading that, very interested in how this topic of like place. I'm very interested in that and like mapping and place and space. And so I figured this would be a really good book for me to start reading. So I did. Also started and finished The Sidetracked Executives, which, if we're talking about acquisitions on the book side of things, which I don't really talk about on this portion of it, but it's this book, and this is the book that informed the index system. So I'll talk a little bit more about this later, but I did acquire it, start it, and finish it this month. So there's another book that I finished. See, not that bad. Started and I think I just read the intro to A Tale of False Fortunes, which is a book by Fumiko Enchi. She is the same author as Masks, which is a book I read earlier in the year. Only read the intro, but very I think she has the potential of being one of my favorite authors. I really, really love her voice. So there's that. I've been also reading the Book of Yokai. That's one I've been reading now for a couple of months. It is about the study of Japanese monsters slash ghouls slash mythological creatures, and through historical context and the future, and how the exploration of how the creation of yokai also speaks to what human issues are going on. Like, yokai only manifest because of human problems, and how through the study of yokai you can determine what is kind of like aggravating or happening to the human population in the areas in which these yokai kind of like come up, which makes absolute sense. When you look at mythology, it's very much a mythology is a direct response to people and the things and their fears and the things that they're going through. So I find that very, very interesting. We already talked about the heart of haiku, and then yeah, as soon as I finished The Heart of Haiku, I read like the first couple of pages of For All My Walking, which is again an exploration slash biography of another haiku poet, this time from the late 1800s, early 1900s, I believe, and kind of like his exploration. I've only read the intro to that, so I don't really know much about it, but have been enjoying that. And yeah, just a lot of Desperate Housewives during my lunch breaks. That's been really fun. And yeah, that's pretty much it for media. This week I haven't read much. I've been doing a lot of coding practice on because I have been working on getting my Obsidian published on the internet, and that is already live and available to my patrons for now. Eventually, it will be available to the public, but as I'm working through it and kind of getting it to a place that I want, it's still just available to my patrons and they can kind of see it as I work on it. But because I've been working on that and kind of like delving into this realm of website building as a creative practice, as another form of journaling, a digital form of journaling, um, I've been taking some coding courses. And so because I've been doing a lot of coding and a lot of writing through Nick Milo's course and sprints, I haven't had much time for reading. So that's kind of that's kind of what it's been like in here. Haven't done anything else with the back pages either, with my little wonky calendars that I still very much love, but just haven't touched. So that has been how I used my media journal this month. Let's talk a little bit about functional systems. So at the beginning of the month, I think, yes, I think I talked about this at the end of like this started happening at the end of July. So I had been in my Hobonichi Weeks from 2024. I was kind of just using it as a place to kind of dump my to-dos, and I was using this in tandem with my Todoist, which is a digital system for task management. And then I was using the notes pages just to capture meeting notes and different tasks that I needed to do. However, I still experienced some friction again with this kind of like system. It was working, but I still felt like it was lacking in certain ways. And at one point, like I mentioned earlier, I came across this video because I guess I was watching index card stuff. And let me look for the name of the video. So the video is by Natasha's Healthy Living, and it's called My Index Card System for a Peaceful, Organized Home, inspired by the Sidetracked Home Executives, which is this book. And essentially, it is a system for organization. For It's a functional system using index cards to basically, it's the target audience is stay-at-home moms who, again, sidetrack are like home executives. They run their home. Stay-at-home moms or stay-at-home wives, and how to be able to run their home in an efficient way when and get things done when you're someone who gets easily sidetracked, but also don't really have anyone telling you what to do. And because of that, it's primarily aimed at house tasks, which is something that I felt I was lacking. I've been living by myself in, I own a home, and it's a three apartment home, and I live in my own apartment, and my mom and my grandparents live in the main house unit. And I feel like I'm still not 100% at the capacity. Like, I feel like when it comes to taking care of my home, I'm not the best at it yet. I feel like I'm still kind of like figuring it out. And so I was very interested in that part, but then I was also interested in kind of like shifting the system to work for me in all aspects of my functional. So I am currently using this system as my tasks for work, for my home, and for L&M stuff, for Wider View Studios things, which is my virtual assistant company. Basically, my entire functional system is like being built on this. And it is not 100%. completed yet, and I will be making a video that goes deep into this along with a blog post that kind of like has everything. So if you don't want to read this book, I've read it for you and I'll be sharing that information. But essentially, just so that you get an idea, you have your daily tasks, which is what your 1 through 31 is. You have monthly tabs, and you have like names, because the point is to also have this be a place for you to house um, information on people as well. But basically, you have recurring tasks. So let me go ahead and show you these, because these are kind of like LNM tasks. And basically, it is a habit creator. So each card has your frequency, the amount of time it's going to take you, and the task itself. Every card is a task. So I have a task for 5-minute free writing. That's in the morning. I do my morning pages, and as soon as I get on my desk, I do 5 minutes of free writing before I start my workday, just as a creative practice. So that is a mini task. So any task that is less than 10 minutes gets named a mini task. And in the original system, you have color coded cards based on the frequency in which you're doing those things, but that didn't really work for me. Instead, I'm color coding them based off of the type, basically what it's for. So this kind of color is L&M color. This like pink color is one of my clients. This green color is home. And then I have yellow for another client and blue for Wider View Studios. So it's basically like who the task is pertaining to, right? So these are L&M tasks. So I have my 5-minute free writing. As soon as I do this for the day, so today is the 31st. So you can see I have my 31 here. All of the tasks get put to the front. So as soon as I finish my task for today, I know that this is a daily task because I've made it such. So I'm going to look for one and I'm going to dump it in my one. And you can see one already has tasks in it because there's different frequency to tasks. So I'll put that in there. And as soon as I'm done with the day, I'll move this to the back. I'll move August to the back because we're finished with August, and then I'm at one, right, to this for the start of the month. And so it's really interesting. So I have here weekly tasks. So for example, my weekly arc and newsletter. So I am trying to do a weekly newsletter. So I know that takes me about 2 to 3 hours, and I do this weekly. So as soon as I'm done with this task today, I'll move this to a week from now. So a week from Sunday is the let's see, the 7th. So I'll go to my number 7 and I'll put this here, and that'll be there for whenever I'm ready to, whenever I get to that day. So that's kind of the way that it works. And then this is like my every other day, I clean my litter boxes. So every day, every other day and day I clean my dishes. I have a problem with cleaning dishes. I it's the bane of my existence. And then cleaning out the fridge, I made that a monthly slash every other month. So as soon as I get this done, I will go ahead and look for my October card because I haven't gotten there. And I'll put that in October so that whenever I get to organizing and kind of like figuring out what I'm going to do and planning out for the next month, it's there waiting for me. And so that's basically how the system works at its most simple kind of like aspect to it. And what I'll do is the day before, I'll look at my cards, make sure that I still want to do them that day. And then in the morning, I will also look at the card and kind of figure out how I want to separate them, and it makes it really easy for me to figure out how I want to sort my day. Now, that being said, I still would like a companion for that. So right now I'm still using the weeks for it, but I have purchased the Jibun Techo because the goal is that I will use that. Um whatchamacallit, timelines. So what I ended up doing this week, aside from the Hobonichi Weeks, because I like the timeline, I tried using the tan, um, and let me see, because I think there's confidential information here. Let me check. Okay, so I'm just covering the section. But basically, I just wanted to have kind of like a timeline to figure out because there was a lot of things that I needed to do. And I don't usually use timelines unless I'm feeling like it's a particularly hectic day. And these 2 days definitely felt hectic. As you can see, I didn't do any time blocking for the other ones, but just having the option was good because I wasn't using the tan for daily logging because I ended up using something else, which I'll talk about when I get to the daily logging part. Um, I was just using that for that and seeing how it worked. And eventually that kind of led me to wanting to use the Jibun Techo, and I did pre-order that. But yeah, I've been really loving the index system. I think it's been working really well. And I'm kind of like creating cards as I go. The system, the way that it's said, is to kind of get all the cards set up, but I knew that if I did that, I wasn't going to get started in the system. And so as I kind of realize, oh, I want to do this, and I know that I'm going to do it in a certain frequency, I will create a card for it. I have all these extra cards here in the back, and assign it a frequency, assign it a color, and yeah, and then put it in the system for me to use. And it's been really, really fun. I've enjoyed it quite a lot. I like the box. I like the stickers. I like the tactileness of the box as well. But I do think I need kind of like a companion journal for it. But the tasks that have a frequency, I like having this because it makes it so that I'm not thinking that I have to latch onto something or else I'll forget. So been very much enjoying that for my functional system. Now let's talk about the daily journaling. So I think when I last left you at the start of August, end of July, I was using the traveler's notebook for daily logging, and I have not been using that. So if you'll notice here, I think I had shared this with you because it was the end of the July. I didn't end up doing anything else to this page, and I didn't use any other one here. So that's unfortunate. It just ends up happening that way. I have my moments where I really like this spread, and other moments where I just fall off of it. In in truth, I think it's because there's a lot of journals. I think that there's a lot of journals that I have where I do similar things, and so it makes it so that my energies is kind of in different place. I think that size has a lot to do with it as well. I do think this is a very comfortable size, but like for example, I have a similar issue with the vertical weeklies and the Hobonichi, and I do think that's a size thing. I think it's just too big for my desk, but I don't do well with A6. I like the A5 size. I just think that for daily stream of consciousness journaling, it just doesn't work for me. I like a smaller size for that kind of journaling. So that was that. And then in terms of the daily log, I also fell off of it. I only really did Friday the 1st of August. And then I didn't use it again. I felt an itch at this point to use the take a note. And so I went back into that. So unfortunately, the TN was a short lived thing, but I have it set up. I still have it there. I love these little charms. I want to see if I can add them to maybe the Ranger now that I'm using that a little bit more because I love them. They were gifted to me. So these two were gifted to me is Bakugo and Deku from My Hero Academia. My sister went to Japan in 23, I think, and got me these, and I love them very much. And then this little pirate charm is from a zine that I got from them. So I love them and I want to be able to use them. So I'm gonna see about moving them. But yeah, TN was short lived, sadly. So then I went back into the tan, and I will show you that in a second. So I tried out a couple of things. I wanted to try maybe doing like a weekly review on this side and having my little trackers here. And I liked how it worked. And instead of using the columns for the day, I kind of like went across the page. And again, I really like that. I was having fun experimenting with that. I didn't end up doing the weekly review, so I just stuck this in, which was something that I think came from Yoseka, maybe from my Yoseka order. Who knows? Or maybe it was Atlas Station. I don't know. But it came from some order, and then I just pasted it in here because I didn't have anywhere else to put it. I didn't want to throw it away. So I just added it that there. And then I really like this page quite a lot. I think this was it this day? I think so. I was trying out just decorating the one page instead of decorating it as a spread, trying out just like decorating it because I do take these out to journal. So usually this will be on my desk separately. And so instead of using both pages as a spread, which is why I think there's a lack of cohesion on on this spread, I was just doing it per page. But I really like how this one looks by itself quite a lot. Um, and then yeah, that's pretty much it. And then there's this spread. Since the weekly review thing didn't work, I decided, you know what? I don't ever really know what to do in this section, so I'll just go all the way across. And this particular week, I only lasted 2 days in here. And what ended up happening is because I've done a lot of writing, I've been doing a lot of writing in August because I participated in Nick Milo's writing original works sprint. And so there was a lot of writing every single day, and it was a great experience. I did end up upgrading to his accelerator program. And so I took his note making mastery course at the beginning, I think in May. I took the WoW sprint in now in August, and I think it's made a great difference in my kind of like confidence level. But essentially, because I was using this as a functional system, and then I stopped using it because I was doing the times thing in here, and I had the index card, and I was kind of like going all over the place. I felt this kind of like desire to write to like use this for my daily logging. I wanted something a little bit simpler or smaller and maybe more poetic. I don't know. I was just feeling it, guys. Sometimes that's it. That's what drives me to do things. I have all of these journals, and I know that some people consider me a journal hopper. I don't really resonate with that in the same way. I don't know. I guess I am technically a journal hopper because I am job hopping from journal to journal, but I'm not purchasing new journals. I'm kind of like hopping between I'm kind of using the same journals for different things and seeing kind of like what form things take, because I am a firm believer that form changes the way that you interact with your practices. So the way that I journal in here is not the same way that I'm going to journal in the weeks, just because it's impossible. The sizing is different. There's no way for you to do it the same. You can kind of see here an example of what I'm talking about, but I spilled something on here and made it so I don't want to look at it anymore. But essentially, and I did cut it up because I didn't want to keep it in that weeks, and um you know what? I will put on the screen what it looks like before I cut it up. The scan that I shared with my patrons. Um I It started off with this quote here from the 13th. I haven't used this in a few days. Keen to see if I can find a way to use it for art, writing, poetry? Question mark. Maybe if I use it as a catalog of sorts. Maybe I can have the media log on one side and the captures on the others. Who knows? I'm always interested in pushing the boundaries of our journals, famously deconstructing the Hobonichi cousin. Why stop there? So I am always very interested in kind of like pushing the boundaries that the journals apply, and kind of like seeing what you can experiment with and have fun with. And I really liked how this kind of like spread came out, and you're seeing it together. And I really liked it. I wanted to keep going, but then I had the problem. Um, I considered possibly getting a Hobonichi Weeks just for this purpose, but I'm not 100% sure. Um, I'm not sure. It's possible. I don't know. I haven't decided, but I didn't do it again. I just did it this 1 week, and I really liked it, but I don't know. I don't know. And so I have different things, right? Like I'm desiring something I cannot name. I listed a lyric that I was listening to that kind of like kept coming up and coming up and coming up. Say You Love Me was another lyric. The lyric that kept coming up was from a mashup of a Gracie Abrams song and Sign of the Times. You built this cage, lost color in my face. You're fair and I'm insane. Hallucination, shame, guilt, pain, more pain. I kept listening to that song over and over that week. And then what I thought was serendipitous and cool is I wrote this, and it says more pain because again, that was the lyric that I was listening to. But the way that I wrote it makes it look like it says make pain. And so I found that really interesting. There's a little thing here. It smells like rain. Basically, it's a collection of what I would call musings, kind of like the musings for the week. So this is a different way. For me, daily logging is usually this kind of like, oh, this happened. Oh, I'm feeling this. Very, very mundane, I guess. Yeah. Hold on. I'm kind of like realizing something. So it's a very mundane way of me kind of like cataloging what's going on in the day, just because I have the thought I want to write it down. Whereas this was more poetic in nature, and it was more musings. It was more kind of like abstract, right? Like it felt there was a certain je ne sais quoi to it. Um, and it was more, I don't know, it was different. And it feels like both of those things are good representations of me at the time, but just different ways of viewing it, if that makes sense. Anyways, so that was that. And then I came back to this spread for this week for daily logging. Very simple, didn't do much. And then I think at this point I got, was it? Yeah. I think at this point I got the Ranger. And I started using the Ranger for daily logging. And I'll show you because I love it. I love it so much. So I did add these recently from my other journal, and this came with the journal itself. And so this is, isn't it so cute? So like we talked about earlier in the acquisition, these are the new inks that I got, and I just added them here with a little tip in. I think we're too zoomed in. And then we got this page, also really like it. And this is very similar, I think, in vibe to the TN. Like the pages in the TN, I do feel that it's like very similar in vibe. And what ended up happening was I didn't realize that this page was the back for like one of those Filofax info dumps. So I created this kind of like collagey thing on top of it with a bunch of stickers that I had. And it reminded me of the cover pages that I would do in my TN. And I feel like doing that kind of like unlocked of like, yeah, I want to do this as daily logging. I definitely want to keep it up. So I did that. Did this page and it ended up bleeding on the other side. So at one point, I wrote something in my M5 and I wanted to stick it somewhere. And so I ended up sticking it in here and covering kind of like the bleeding on this side. And then, yeah, this is where we're at. Um, and I want to keep using it as a daily log. I did go ahead and add kind of like some other pages. This is from when I was doing my gratitude log. I added that in here, and I also added these pages that I had purchased for when I was using the rings as a functional system and seeing if this kind of works as a companion. We shall see. I haven't 100% decided, but there is a potential for a few things with this system. But for now, I definitely do quite like using it for daily logging, and I will probably continue doing that into September unless something changes, which is always possible, but we shall see. But yeah, I've been really enjoying the rings for daily logging and kind of like how I'm doing it right now. I've been watching some Japanese creators, and I'm interested in maybe changing things up a little bit in terms of the daily log, but that's still in the works. And then last but not least is the Hobonichi cousin of it all. I can't believe we're already at 53 minutes and I've just now got to the Hobonichi cousin. This is definitely going to be a very long video. So I did end up sticking these images in, and I tried using it as a kind of like daily log-ish situation, and I'm never fully successful. This is where it started and me wanting to have kind of like this poetic version of my daily log. I started with this here and then I don't know. And then that eventually led into the weeks the way that I showed you. But I didn't do anything on this page or oh goodness gracious. Ever since I changed printers, they keep sticking to each other and it pisses me off. And yeah, haven't done anything there. So vertical weeklies are pretty much the same as usual. They will get filled up once I start sticking images in. But then in terms of the daily pages, I felt a really big urge to have all of my pages together again, and so I stuck all of the pages together again, and it is too chunky. I definitely need to yeah, it's like a little bit too much. I definitely need to separate it, but I just wanted them to be together. I don't know. Anyways, so there's that. In terms of the weekly pages, let me see. What did I show you last? Okay, I just went into the last video to make sure that I was showing you correctly. So I added these two images here into the June pages, and then I am covering this little section here because I don't want to get demonetized. If you're interested in uncensored scans or uncensored flip throughs, do check out my Patreon. A little Patreon plug. Anyways, I added these images, which represent the different birthdays of fictional characters that happened in July, and my top 10 songs of the month, both as a Receiptify type situation and the covers. And then I haven't added anything into August. So pretty much I haven't worked at all in August. In August, all I did was work a lot on the July pages. So I think that in here I'm pretty much kind of like running on a backlog of about a month and a half, which I'm absolutely fine with. It's not a big deal. I had already showed you this, so this is nothing new, but I did add these two images. This is from a manhwa, and then this is from a matching game that I'm obsessed with. And then these pages as well. I did do journal with me videos on these. If you're interested, there's two. So there's one where I went through and added kind of like the words and the quotes that I collected based off my obsidian. And then there's a second one where I went in and added all of this kind of like digital, what I'm calling digital ephemera, which is all these images that I collect. So that's that. Lots of One Piece, of course. And then this page is meant to again represent, there's like the 14th, the 15th, and the 16th are filled with birthdays of fictional characters that I enjoy. So the 14th is Tanjiro's birthday from Demon Slayer. The 15th is Izuku's birthday from My Hero Academia, and the 15th is also the birthday of Korasan from One Piece. So I went ahead and added those there, and there was a little synchronicity with a quote, so I added that. And I primarily added these here because I ran out of space on the actual days. So there's that. A few other images of Bakugo and Deku, which I added under this quote. And there is still, I think, one more week worth of images that I need to print for July. So I'm not even 100% done with July just yet. Or am I? I think I am done. I think what I'm pending to do is to just like connect some things. So almost done with July, but not quite yet. There is one more video in that 3-part video series, like mini series that I created about journaling in here. So stay tuned for that. In terms of these pages, not much different in June, I don't believe. I haven't really done any kind of like connecting. I've just done a lot of sticking in images. So in July, I added a bunch of images, meme images and stuff like that. This is from this song that was going on TikTok that was very popular. I have to go in and add all of my July 1st songs, but there's some images in here, images in here. I have already shown you this, I believe. Let's see. I added these two things, which is a quote from Jurassic Park. I have to do a Jurassic Park dedicated page. And with this one, I'm also going to make a video that talks about like how I use Obsidian to inform this and vice versa. So that's something that's been in the works. Some notes I created. I struggle to add my original thoughts to my Zettelkasten because I don't believe my ideas can stand alongside the words of others I collect. This is one of the things that I wrote about and talked about in that video, that journal with me, the first one. And kind of just talking about like different synchronicity moments. Skip through that. This was the page on Izuku's birthday. As you can see, it is very filled in. Lots of quotes. So let's see. Why did no one tell us that to die is to be reincarnated in those we love while they are still alive? How odd. I can have all of this inside me, and to you, it's just words. I don't want to make a life here. Life happens wherever you are, whether you make it or not. I have done nothing all summer but wait for myself to be myself again. Sometimes the most healing we can do is remind ourselves over and over and over. Other people feel this too. And then there's a couple of pages that I want to write a little bit about because I feel like they represent me quite well. This page on Pet Cemetery that I want to do for a review. These are some notes on a course I took. Just some overflow images of One Piece as well. Another page that I have to do a review for with nothing but blackened teeth. Overflow One Piece images that ended up working really well, and and there was synchronicity with this quote that I felt really worked well with the Straw Hat Pirates. Come love, make me better than I was. Come teach me a kinder way to say my name. Um, and then I definitely want to write on this little cluster here as well. I suppose to love this life. I suppose I love this life in spite of my clenched fist. And then a picture of the good place where Chidi's telling Eleanor, I'm sorry you're in pain. And Eleanor says, I'm used to it. And Chidi replies, okay, but that's worse. I mean, you get how that's worse. Um, I really love that. I really love The Good Place. It's one of my favorite shows. I feel like I'm due for a rewatch. Dark Water was another book that I finished in July that I have to do a review for. And then just a bunch of other quotes that I collected in the month that I felt were synchronous. If you want to hear about these quotes and hear me read them, check out that video or just pause right now and read them yourself. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Funny. In terms of August, this is one of the printables that I provided in the month, and I did it on this paper, so I just went ahead and punched holes and added it here. I added this new pen test image, not image, section page here. And I think that's all I've added to August except for one thing. Hold on. Where are you? Here. These images I collected in July, but I added it here because this day I got so sunburnt that when I saw these images, I related so much to Sabo, I had to add it to this page. And then yesterday, I had my little currently inked session for September. So technically that is also something that I did in August and I added it here. And so that is my Magpie journal, my commonplace slash Magpie journal. Um I am gonna have to separate it again and I don't want to. But that is that. I have to see if I can find another, maybe a Mo term, because those have the 30-inch rings. I don't know. I'm like indecisive because there's like part of me that wants to have everything together and part of me that knows that if I had smaller rings, it would be easier for me to write inside of it. So it's just I'm torn. I'm torn. I'm not sure if next year I'm gonna. I think it's Hobonichi Day as I'm recording this, and I'm slowly getting closer and closer to having to pre-order. I do think I'm gonna end up getting the Avec system. Now, whether I'm gonna do it in a rings again next year or not is to be seen. I really love the flexibility that having it in rings gives, especially when it comes to like typewriting and running it through your printer and things like that. But I don't know. I don't know. Ugh, look at how chunky that is. It's so chunky. I love this journal so much, though. It brings me so much joy. I love it. And I know that a lot of you guys really love it too. I think it's a fan favorite for sure. And then last but not least, let's talk about the inks category catalog situation. I had my inks in a personal rings binder. And I think there is a video where I kind of showcase that. And if there is, I'll leave it linked for you guys to check it out if you're interested in it. But at some point in the beginning of the month, I decided, hey, I kind of want to have it in an A5 ring system so I have a bit more space. And so I started setting that up. I used as a base Megan Rhiannon Petit Gloom's inserts, and I added this information to it, and then I went in and I cut up my personal rings little swatches and added them to these pages um, as little tip-ins. At first, I was cutting them completely and pasting them completely. But then at one point, I was like, you know what would be even better if I had them in index cards? And so that's where the index card system kind of like was born. But that didn't end up working really well because, again, the index cards that I purchased weren't very good with like inks. They're like granulating and they're bleeding and feathering, and I don't like it. So I tried getting the Clairefontaine index cards, and those didn't end up working very well. And you know what? At the end of the day, sometimes you try things and they don't work, and that's absolutely fine. Experimentation doesn't always lead to successful experiments, but nonetheless, they give you information. And so when that didn't work, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go back to personal. And so I cut up a bunch of Tomoe River paper to personal size. I have like these Tomoe River paper sheets, and I ran them through my typewriter to create, because I didn't want to print them out. I was like, I don't want to print them out. Let's see if I can use my typewriter to create these. And so I did. And I showcased this in my currently inked at the end of my currently inked video, but I will show it to you kind of briefly here. I'm using a Ashford insert, personal insert for it. And I have so at first I have my pens and the pen log for that. So basically what it is I have my pen, the fountain, the origin story, like where I got it from, the original nib that it has, and if there's any additional nibs. And the point is to have a log of every single time I ink that pen. And ideally, I will also write when I finish it or run it dry, but I'm not being that picky with myself. And that way I can kind of see, how often I am inking a certain pen, and um which ones I've liked more for that pen. And at the same time, this is what I ran through my typewriter. I have the ink name and the brand. Here's where the swatch will go. If I have a bottle or a sample, the origin story or when I acquired it, and any ink properties before the ink log. And so I did that for all of the inks that I drafted up or that I inked up yesterday. And I have a few other ones. So, like I mentioned, I kind of go through this in um, that other video, but I just wanted to like kind of show you. So essentially, this is going to house all of the ink, and I'll have as well kind of like ink log. And that way I'll be able to see on this page how every pen kind of handles the ink or how the ink looks like in that specific pen. So it's kind of like two views of the same information, but in different ways. And then here in the back, I have kind of like the original ones that I just went in and ran through my typewriter as well. And these I don't own anymore. I've given them away to other pen friends or sent the samples away or finished up the sample. And so yeah, that's pretty much what I'm trying out, and we shall see. I really like it. I really like it in this kind of like format. Um and I don't know how I'm gonna sort it just yet, but that's kind of like in the works, if you will. So that's basically the ink system. I did run all of my pens dry in the month, which is really exciting. Although I did ink them at the end of July, so it was a little bit more than a month. But I'm really excited that I'm finally kind of like at a place where I'm starting the month with the currently inked. Let's see how long it takes me to run these new pens dry because there's a lot of them inked. I inked 10 pens this time. It is the most I've ever inked any pens at a given time. So there's that. And I think that's it. I think I finally finished what I wanted to say. I've been talking for so long. This is such a long video. I hope that you guys like the long video. I know that a lot of you do, but there's a lot of information here. So that's my wrap up in terms of the journals that I used, how I used them in the month, any acquisitions that I had stationery and ink wise, and what worked and what didn't work, and what is um kind of like my plans a little bit for the future. I hope that you enjoyed the video. If you've made it this far, please let me know via adding an emoji of, let's see. Oh, I forgot that I my bad. So add your favorite heart emoji. So everyone has like their favorite heart emoji that they use. How about you add yours? Whatever color that is, if it's like a solid emoji or if it's like the one with like the little two or if it's one with a sparkle, add a heart emoji that is your favorite. And that way we know that you're part of the end of video game, especially for this video, which is so long. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye.